Hey guys, Bike here, and I'm back again with another Last Epoch build guide. This one's for the Paladin. The chat named it the Master Yi Paladin. I know it's kind of weird. They called it the Master Yi build, and because we're playing Last Epoch and not League of Legends, I wanted to make sure that people knew it had something to do with Paladin, Master Yi Paladin. So if you guys remember last cycle, I was playing this build. I found the Eternal Eclipse. I had a whole tab of shame. I could not get any Eternal Eclipse with melee critical strike chance. I released the build guide and essentially was just like, this build could be better if it has melee critical strike chance. I'll revisit it if I ever get it. And referencing the tab of shame that I was talking about earlier, it was an entire tab filled with failed slams. Well, I finally got one this cycle after like 12 or 15. And guess what? It was even a slam. It was the Nemesis. I know, right? Nemesis gave me a T6 melee critical strike chance. I'm very excited about that. So I'm excited to show you guys what we've been working on. Been playing the build for about 4 days, but if you're just here for the planner, it's in the link in the description down below. There we go. That's the word right there. In the description down below. I've been working on this with the live stream audience. If you're interested in live streams, information available in the description down below. And they offered a lot of insight. The build has gone through a few different changes, but like I said, we played it for about 4 days. I already had a bunch of gear from like Swordcatcher Rive and stuff, so just had to kind of just smooth out a few different things. And enough talking. Let's go ahead, jump into the game. All right, here we are in game, but first, gameplay. Okay, so this build is okay. The build has what I'd call skill expression. If you can get into the right flow, the build could also feel like a flat tire at time. If you don't have any charges in your Void Cleave and maybe you panic and you spam a couple, you might run out. But the damage is huge. Here's the thing. The only damage we really have is Void Cleave. And we're attaining this by using the Eternal Eclipse, an item we'll go over in a little bit, and stacking so many more multipliers that we can achieve big damage in game. And it's very satisfying. You can just Void Cleave is our movement skill, so you can just Void Cleave through a big pack of enemies and boom, there you go, they're dead. You hit with multi-strike a few times, you build up a few charges of armament, and boom, there you go. You wield the power of the one punch, so to speak. It's not exactly one punch, but you can do a lot of damage, and it's actually not too bad for bossing. Speaking of bossing, let's go ahead and check out Raye right now. So Raye, we can do pretty good damage to him, and we have a chance to stun him, but it's kind of to our detriment at times, because Raye is one of those bosses, you stun him, and his moveset will just keep going, and then he'll go into another one, was old moveset was going. But on different bosses, it works better. Let's cut to the Harbinger. You can actually interrupt some of his moves when you stun him. I don't know if this is a holdover from the way the game used to be, because obviously the Harbinger's newer, Raye's a lot older. So I don't know if that's the way going forward, and they haven't just applied that fix to every boss. But with the Harbinger, you can actually stop some of his moves before he can even get them rolling. Let's go back to some monolith clearing. I want to talk a little bit more about this. I will say that the build is kind of squishy. We have okay armor. I had to make a switch. Basically, we're having to convert our armament into armor while we have stacks of armament, and then we consume it. Our armor goes away, then we build them back up real quick. It is a little weird, but at the same time, the build feels good. It has okay clear speed. I like it. It's different. It's unique. We were able to take out Aberroth. Let's cut over to Aberroth right now. So I did this on my second attempt, and the stun chance to block some of his moves was actually really good. I didn't know you could interrupt some of his big charge up attacks. And I feel like that's the only way I was able to do this fight. If I was just over there hitting him, like, we do good damage, but like I said, we got to try and do all that damage with Void Cleave. Our multi-strike is not really doing a whole lot of damage. You got to hit him with that Void Cleave and then try and build up another big hit and then boom, do it again. That sort of thing. But we're able to take him down. If you want to see this full clip, it's at the end of the video. And let's go ahead and jump into the game. All right, here we are in game. I'm actually at the arena instead of my normal little spot in the monoliths. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to demonstrate what you could do. You guys might have seen a few crits back there, and they're good, but check this out, all right? Now, obviously, this is the dummy, all right? This is not representative of what you'll actually get in-game, but you do the little combo. All right, I want to demonstrate it. So hit, hit, hit. You want to make sure you have 4 stacks of armament. So hit, hit, hit. Right? Right? That was 4.3 million damage. Now, of course, that's against the dummy, but that's a lot of damage, chat. That's a lot of damage. So here's the combo. Hit, hit, hit. Volatile reversal, quickly cast Abyssal Echoes, Void Cleave. And you got to do that while that is still active, right? So there is a lot of button presses here, chat. I'm not going to lie. And what you're also trying to do is make sure you have enough stacks of bleed on the target to get maximum damage. So we've had to take bleed in different areas. And we'll go over that once we hit the gear, the blessings, the idols, all that stuff. But you can really, you know, you can rack up the damage. We saw a 5 mil crit earlier. Now, obviously not representative. I've been seeing on average in-game, assuming you can get enough armor shred and enough bleed stacks, I've been seeing around 10%. So if we were hitting for 5 mil, I've seen 500k crits. If we were hitting for 4 mil, I've seen 400k crits. That's right around there. So let's go ahead and jump into the gear. So we're going to do the gear, the idols, the blessings, all that stuff. Yeah, some stuff from farming earlier. Okay, so let's start with the helmet. The helmet might look familiar. It was from the Bleed Paladin build. You don't necessarily need strength in it to me. Strength, I highly recommend. You can put whatever you want on the second affix. Could be vitality, could be whatever you're looking for. This one was a gift from the Nemesis, so I'm just rolling with it. It's a lot of armor, it's a lot of health. If you feel like you're good on strength, you can reverse that. You can just look for a Leonine's. Right now, this is our only source of critical strike reduction other than blind. You can look for an exalted health, go from there, but I think, you know, strength, health is very useful here. Titan Heart, I've been liking this better than, let's go ahead and show you. I don't have a very good one, but Null Portent. I used Null Portent for a little while. Null Portent checks a lot of boxes, and it still just doesn't feel that good to me. This is the one I was using. So let's bring you back over here. Right, so Null Portent checks a lot of boxes. Gives you melee damage, leeches health. Gives you overkill damage, which technically we do overkill a lot, but I feel like the melee damage, leeches health is already good enough. Leech rate, health, resistance, and then less damage taken per 2% above the normal resistance cap. So you're looking for 115 for each resistance. If I had the blessing, the correct blessing, then I would nearly be there with this vitality roll on there. But the main problem I was running to in monos is I was killing enemies and I was getting hit by poison. It was shredding my poison resistance, which was lowering my damage reduction to that resistance. It just, I don't know. I didn't really like it. Technically, this is better. If you have a God roll Null Portent, go with that. But I'm using this Titan Heart. I wish I kind of had a better one. I wish I had one with strength and health or just health. But I got vitality and health, and honestly, that's not too bad. They both kind of double stack. Plus, the vitality gives me poison and necrotic resistance. So we're able to roll with that. You do you. Either Titan Heart, Null Portent, or even Champion's Regalia is a good choice too. Titan Heart felt the most comfortable for me. I'm going to save Eternal Eclipse for last. I've been kind of hyping that sword up. We're going to talk about that one last. We're using the Nihilus. I've used this one in a couple different builds. It's a very good roll. You don't have to use Nihilus. Oracle's Amulet is a good choice. You don't need Bleeding Heart. I wouldn't use Bleeding Heart. But yeah, all res, armor, increased mana, regen, +2 to all skills, health, mana, movement speed. There's just so much in this amulet. If you're really hard up on resistances, Omnis if you got a good one. Shatter Chains, I've been told I probably got one of the best Shatter Chains in the game, and I'm still to this day a little salty that I didn't get Cleanse on the belt. The belt that I slammed it with had Cleanse, and I got the Void Damage health. It's okay. It works. I'm on Paladin. We have Cleanse on our Holy Aura, but it's kind of a feels bad when you got to wait 8 seconds for your next Cleanse, right, chat? Phantom Grip, you don't necessarily need this. This was just feeling good. I was messing around with some stuff. I was messing around with some forged weapons. I ultimately didn't like it, so I dropped it. So I just left it there because it had what I needed: critical strike chance and health. What you could go for here is if you're using a Phantom Grip, that might be enough critical strike chance for you with the base critical strike chance and the critical strike chance as the implicit. If you already got enough critical strike chance on your weapon, then you can throw some more defensive options, like a resistance you might be missing, endurance, that sort of thing. Phantom Grip, it's a great rain. I got some good rolls here, so I'm rolling with it. We're not really using the minion stuff anymore. Honestly, I could use better pair of gloves. This is also our only source of mitigation against dots. So, intelligence, we don't use that whatsoever. Melee attack speed is a yes, in my opinion. You could also go for critical strike chance, strength. I don't really think you're going to need leech. We just leech so hard with the Void Cleave. I think we're good there. And then I needed the poison resistance and shred armor. If you got your shred armor down good, like let's say you're not using a Nihilist, you're using like an Oracle's Amulet, and you got some shred armor there, and you're doing what I'm doing, you have some chance to shred on your idols, then you can go for health. But this works out. This works out. T7 movement speed on Dark Stride. I do think this is this is a really big one. All right, like it's gonna be rough. Like our movement speed is 59% right now. If you do not have Dark Stride, or you don't have enough movement speed on there, since we're not stacking flat melee void damage, the alternative perk, the thing that I used to use to, you know, the excuse of, well, I don't need it because I got Dark Stride, you know, flat melee void damage gets converted into movement speed. Well, we're not rocking too much of that with this build. We do have a lot of flat, but it's a conditional bonus on Eternal Eclipse. More to come. So I needed the movement speed. If you don't have this, Blood of the Exile, let me just show you what I'm talking about. Blood of the Exile, I had one of these with movement speed on it. I don't know what happened to it. Yeah. Anyway, Blood of the Exile, it's good. It already comes with a lot of movement speed. It's very forgiving. You can use it right off the bat without it. If we take a look right here, so we use Blood of the Exile, bam, slap that in there. We get that strength bonus, we get that movement speed, we get that bleed duration. This checks a lot of boxes. Thing is, I didn't want to invest all these points into getting a second charge here, and a second charge feels very good with this current setup. If you don't have Void Cleave set up as a traversal skill, you can probably get away with it, but this is our only traversal skill. Void Cleave's doing everything for the build. I should just call the build Void Cleave. Void Cleave Paladin. That sounds boring. But yeah, Blood of the Exile would be second best, or just a regular pair of boots, I guess. But I recommend Dark Stride. I got really lucky with this relic. It's given me a huge amount of resistances. It's given me Void Cleave, +3 to Void Cleave, +8 strength, 67 health, chance to apply frailty, and then I sealed the physical damage because I was trying to get that strength on there. Really good pickup here. It's going to be very hard to replace this. Best in slot, you can either go Anchor of Oblivion, but a lot of these affixes really help, right? A lot of these affixes help. If you have a chance to apply frailty somewhere else, like you're using Oracle's Amulet or something, then I would consider using an Anchor of Oblivion because you get so much strength and you just try and get your +3 Void Cleave on there. But best in slot would be Code Infinite Ray Sentinel. Gives you a +1, so even if you got a +2 to Void Cleave with the +1 there, all skills on top of it, You get chance armor mitigation against dots. It's really good. It's kind of frustrating sometimes to get a good code. So rocked with that. So the Shattered Chains and the Siphon of Anguish kind of go hand in hand. So Shattered Chains on its own is fine. You get 70% increased armor. You get flat melee void damage. You get increased melee damage. Potion cleanses stun and freeze, and you get stun immunity. This can actually be big when you're fighting some bosses. They stun you, you quickly pop this. I feel like the stuns don't last that long anyway. It's just enough to mess you up. But you pop this, and then all of a sudden you have stun immunity for 4 seconds. It feels good. It definitely feels good. But what really makes Shattered Chains sing for a melee build is Siphon of Anguish, or if you're using Apathy's Maw. Sorry, there's like sirens going off in the distance. I apologize if you can hear that. But we're not using Apathy's Maw, so I'm using this Siphon of Anguish here. I would highly recommend Health instead of Dodge Rating. Dodge Rating feels next to useless here. But I think Critical Strike Chance and Strength are great pickups, or you can go for % fire or void damage, but Critical Strike Chance and Strength, I feel give you better options. And then Health or Endurance or, you know, any other stat you're missing. Could be a Resistance. But what this does, Siphon of Anguish allows us to apply Doom. And it gives us movement speed, gives us some leech. It's great. And when you're using Shattered Chains, if you read, you get 5% more melee damage per stack of Doom. So Doom on its own is already an ailment that deals void damage over time and increases melee damage taken by 4%. Last 4 seconds can stack up to 4 times. That's a 16% increase. Now, I'm not exactly sure if this works if you stack this on top of what you're already getting from Doom, or if this just replaces what Doom does, but it becomes 5% per stack of Doom. 5 times 4 is 20% more damage. Melee damage in this case per stack of Doom. So that is a pretty okay setup, I think. You could really refine this if you want to. But this is the time I had for it. Let's talk about Eternal Eclipse. I've been hyping this sword up. Alright, so this drops from Rye. Good old Rye, our friend. I found several of these. I slammed these. I started a new tab of shame here, chat. Let's take a look at this. And no, I'm not doing this live. This is a recording, but I'm so used to calling anybody watching chat. So, yeah, here's the tab of shame. Not so great. Not so great. But we finally got it, chat. Melee critical strike chance. And Eternal Eclipse is a very interesting sword. It gives you fire and void resistance, flat 40, no ranges. It also gives you increased fire damage. Not too bad. 200 to 240%. Also gives you increased void damage. 200 to 240%. But here's the really interesting part. Every 2 seconds, your next fire attack has plus 206 flat melee void damage. I added the flat, but that is a flat melee void damage on your fire attack. Now, in most cases, that's cool. Like, don't get me wrong, but you usually want it to scale with whatever you're doing, right? And every 2 seconds, your next void melee attack has plus, well, in this case, there's a range, right? 200 to 240, but in this case, 235 flat melee fire damage. And ignite chance and time rot chance, but I don't care about that. But wait, if I use a void attack, a void melee attack, I get flat fire damage added on top, right? Yeah. But it doesn't scale the attack, right? Why is the sword in the game? I think it's just meant to be a whatever. Or maybe the developers forgot about this node, or it's intended to be like a void cleave type sword. But Rift Flame, ladies and gentlemen. Rift Flame converts void cleave into half and half. 50% fire, 50% void. So granted, We're only getting 50% void damage. The other half goes off into the ether. We're only getting 50% fire damage. The other half goes off into the ether. But that is still a huge, what is that? Like 215? Don't quote me on that. 215 roughly flat damage on your next attack. On your next void cleave. Every 2 seconds. Now, I haven't tried it, but you could mess around with something like Apathy's Maw. Like if you got really lucky. But, you know, the Eternal Eclipse is just kind of cool. Not gonna lie. Plus, it's a sword. Plus, I like how it's unique. Plus, it gives us increased, like massive increases to each damage type, and it gives us resistances. So that is how we're able to keep attacking like this, and it's fast. You know, it's a Copish 1.1, right? Hey, 1.1. No, I'm kidding. Right? Right? Okay, so that's the Eternal Eclipse. That's how it works. That's how we've been getting these huge damage. Plus, it gives us a base plus 50 melee damage. So that's why on its own, it's kind of eh. But when you stack all these multipliers, bro, it starts going insane. All right, that's enough about the gear. Idols are pretty... It's going to be pretty simple, but let's go over it. So, Abyssal Decay Duration. That's okay, but I needed the Armor Shred chance. Area of a Void Cleave. Increase Area of Void Cleave. And chance to shred armor. Needed this. This one I need the physical resistance. And I got to keep increased Area of Void Cleave. So, there we go. And Warpath. Obviously, we're not using Warpath, but chance to shred armor. Very nice. So, that and my gloves are my only sources of shredding armor. Necrotic resistance. A little chance to bleed right there. Poison resistance, a little chance to poison on hit, whatever. Poison resistance, that's how I'm able to kind of hit the cap here. Now, you could, if you wanted to, remove those idols, right? You could do that. Let's type in bleed. We're going to go to this. And you can run one of these bleed duration idols. It's probably that one. So you could do that. You'll be just a little over the cap. And you can have increased bleed duration. Stack up those bleeds. Give you some more damage. Whatever works for you. I'm going to go with the other one because that's just the way I've had it set up this entire time. But that's just to give you options. Okay, let's talk about the blessings. So, actually, let's take this over. Oh, I can just look at it right here. Okay, so blessings. Welcome. Let's go over the blessings. All right, so as you guys already know, take what you like, what you like, what you like, what you like, what you like. All right, cool. We're done with that. Black Sun. You got, in my opinion, 3 options here in the Black Sun. You could take what I took, chance to shred void resistance. This was an easy pickup for me. I kind of, like, at one point, I was running both the Fire Shred Blessing and the Void Shred Blessing here, just to try and shred those resistances. I was giving up too much in the Spirits of Fire timeline with the Fire Blessing, so I ended up keeping this. The eye test tells me that I'm doing a little bit more damage, but you could take Critical Strike Multiplier. You could absolutely take Critical Strike Multiplier. Remember, we're doing 50-50 damage here. So even though I'm shredding Void Resistance, that's only applying to about 50% of the damage. That's still a boost, so you could rock with it. Like I said, if you're lacking on Critical Strike Chance, you could take the Critical Strike Chance Blessing or Critical Strike Multiplier. Both are very solid options. Ending the Storm. So if you're lacking on the resistance, take the lightning resistance. But the increased stun chance, this is what has allowed me to stun Aberroth, Braille, all those people. This, before I would get a stun every once in a blue moon. I got that, bro. Stuns were on the menu. So I highly recommend increased stun chance here and then just trying to deal with it if you can. If you're not using Titan Heart and you don't care about stun chance, and you're good on lightning resistance, you could take the health regen blessing. But other than that, highly recommend stun chance. Rain of Dragons. So this one's a little bit interesting. If you got enough bleed chance, and you might be wondering, why do I keep talking about bleed? We'll get to that in a moment. But if you got enough bleed chance, you don't have to take this. You can take the 20% all res. But since I was good on resistances, I took the 20% bleed chance here to get even more bleed, as well as other stuff in the skill tree and all my skills themselves. So, recommend bleed chance, but if you feel like you're good, you can move on to something else. All res. Or critical strike avoidance if you don't want to use Leonine, so that's also a good choice. Okay, so Grand Embers of Immortality. This is endurance. I needed endurance. Yes, we're paladins. We gain endurance from the Holy Aura, but I needed more. So that's how we arrived here. If you're not using the endurance, highly recommend either armor or fire shred. Your choice. And then Age of Winter, increased armor. It was a good choice. You could, if you want to try and have multi-strike do a bit more damage, there's ways to do it. You could take the physical shred, but I do think that the percent armor is best in slot. All right, that is for the blessings. Let's go ahead and jump into the skills. Excuse me one moment. All right. So volatile reversal, we've been messing around with this. So originally I had this set up to where I also had 3 in time rifts. And other than that, kind of my normal setup. But obviously it wasn't doing anything. I just left it there. I went from Bleed Paladin to this. So in case you're wondering. So I've been messing around with Shifting Power, Void Rift, Increased Stun Chance. That's cool. And increase void damage versus stun enemies, but I don't think I've stunned anybody with the volatile reversal. You know what I mean? I don't think I've stunned anybody with that. So I feel like what happens is if you stun somebody with your void cleave, your opportunity to use this extra damage already goes away. So I'm not entirely sold. I could take the points out of here and put it into like movement speed or warp time, but I've been messing around with it. I'm going to leave it there. You guys feel free to mess around with it. You could even, if you got enough time rot chance, go for Food for the Worms. It's nice, but I'm trying this out. Otherwise, standard setup. Void Cleave. Okay. So this is why I keep talking about bleed. And yes, there is a bug. I've reported the bug, but you might be wondering, what are you talking about? The effect is based on Ignite rather than Bleed if you have Rift Flame. We have Rift Flame. Now, I don't know if it's because you got to have like multiple like nodes of Rift Flame if you need like 3 points or 2 points or something, but it feels like this is bugged because it's still scaling with Bleed. Somebody pointed it out to me. I didn't even notice the effect based on Ignite rather than Bleed was there. So I was going with Bleed and I was seeing big damage. And then somebody said, yo, I took a look at what you're doing. I think you're going to want to Ignite. Read the alternate text. I read it. I'm like, oh, that means I haven't been doing it this entire time. I haven't been getting that massive 120% more damage. Bro, we switched everything over to Ignite. Spent like 10 minutes getting it all ready. And I was doing half the damage, if not more. And so then we switch back to Bleed, and that's when we realized the node is bugged. It's still just scaling with Bleed, even if you have Rift Flame. So I wanted to say that now, in case anybody was like, hey, man, or even meaner than that, and like, hey, man, I don't think you're getting the full amount of damage. No, I am. It's bugged. It's going off of Bleed. So melee damage per Bleed, 8%. Maximum damage, 120%. There you go. Depends on how many stacks of Bleed are on the enemy. That's why I have so much Bleed chance, or trying to get Bleed chance on the build, just to be able to do maximum damage real fast. 3 points in Dark Pathway for cooldown reduction. Like I said, if you're going up here, you'd probably take like a point out of here, 2 points point out of here, 2 points out of here, just to give you enough points to get up to here. Yeah. So these two are more multipliers. I value Abyssal Walker more because it gives you more distance. Allows us to take 1 point in Gravity's Edge. This is what turns it into a movement skill, traversal skill, and allows us to go flying with Void Cleave, and it increases the distance. This is a more multiplier damage. This is a more multiplier damage, plus it makes the area of the Void Cleave even bigger. Somebody pointed out Deadly Omen could be a thing. The thing is, I already kill most enemies real quick anyway, except for the tougher enemies, and I feel like I already damaged them pretty heavily. Sure, this can give me a little bit more damage right off the rip, but then this disappears, whereas the bleed one is there the entire fight. So Deadly Omen could be a choice. I personally prefer Vorpal Force, but if you don't want to be trying to stack bleed a whole bunch, you could put points into Deadly Omen for some fat damage. I haven't tried this. I was just not interested. Go down here, one of my favorite nodes in the entire game, Precognition. Void Cleave cannot be dodged. All our damage comes from Void Cleave. Hello! I hate the dodge node. I hate it. So yeah, can't be dodged, gives us a base crit chance of 2%. Riftmaker gives us 150%. So if you look right here, can you guys see it? No, you cannot. Let's click over here. Let's move my... Oh, hi. How's it going? I have 2 cameras rolling. That's embarrassing. Click. Okay. So if you look right over here, my melee critical strike channel. I'm like, if you look over here, and I'm like looking on OBS. So if you look over here, my melee critical strike chance is 70%. But with all the bonuses that we get within Void Cleave, the 150% and the 2% that's applied only to Void Cleave, we get 100% on Void Cleave. Right? So we don't have 100% on, what is this? Multi-strike. Sorry, chat. We don't have 100% on multi-strike, but we have 100% on Void Cleave. That's the most important. So, oh, and we don't have, obviously, any crit for the dots. And there you go. Let's go back to Void Cleave. So I take 3 points here. It applies critical vulnerability, makes it easier to crit. So your multi-strikes might be able to crit a little bit more. That's cool. 150% increased crit chance. If you don't need that much, you can take a couple points out of here. If you feel like you're good off a crit, and if you're a lot better at math than I am, you're able to be like, no, I need exactly blah, blah, blah. Increased crit chance. You can go with that. And then I take all 4 points in Champion of the Void. This gives us back a ton of mana if we crit with Void Cleave, which we crit all the time, and a 200% critical strike multiplier. Pretty good. I'm going to move my face back over here. Okay, cool. Cool. So, yeah, 1 point Rift Flame. Do not take Hellish Chasm. It's tempting, but it will convert the full damage to fire, and then your damage will fall off a cliff. Believe me. Because now you're no longer benefiting from the 50-50. Do not take Hellish Chasm. Now, if you're using something like a Bardiche, then yeah, convert it and then take the Blazing Steel for more damage. There you go. For physical damage. But yeah, don't take these if you're using Eternal Eclipse. If you're using Apathy's Maw, don't take Rift Flame. End of story. Let's go over to Multi-Strike. You have multiple different ways to build this. I ultimately went with more bleed chance per stack of armament. We have 4 stacks of armament, right? All right. So you get 2 right off the rip, and then you get 2 right here, I believe. Yeah, you get 2 right here, and then you need to take this to be able to get to Nullifying Carve. And that gives us 4 stacks of armament between these 2 nodes. This is kind of a kiss curse right here. We get more stacks of armament, but our attack speed goes down per stack. So we have to take all 3 points in Relentless Advance just to offset the attack speed we lose here. But that gives us another stack. The reason why we're trying to build up 4 stacks of armament is Nullifying Carve. Void Cleave consumes all stacks of armament to gain multiplicative damage, right? This is a 60% more multiplicative damage. That will be multiplying with this, Yeah, 60%. I took 2 points in Way of the Sword. Just makes the stacks last a little longer, gives a little flat physical damage. And then I took 5 points in Guarding Stance. We get 150 armor per stack. So let's see if we can't take a look at this. So this is my armor right now, 6,015. We start hitting. Now it's at 9,158, right? So the armor bonus goes up immensely. But here's the thing. You activate that, goes away. So this is just a temporary little buff. I would say it's pretty close to, well, not pretty close. It's kind of like a baby Vengeance damage reduction, except we don't get the damage reduction. We just get armor. And guess what? Vengeance gives you armor too. So, so yeah, you can roll with that. That's what I did. If you're good off of armor or you just want this to do more damage, take the points out of here. You can either take 3 points here, or you can put some points and go down here and gain more multiplicative damage with your armor. That way you're not waiting for this conditional bonus of how much bleeds on the enemy. But if they have 10 stacks of bleed, you're doing 30% more damage per point. So 3.90% more damage. You get 100% from Path of the Night, but you got to put 5 points here as opposed to 3. Can also gain more damage from Determination. There's a lot of more in Multi-Strike as well. In Determination, this can give you penetration, physical penetration. So if you're really trying to make Multi-Strike like be a thing, you could invest some points here and really like Multi-Strike could be a thing. But at that point, I'd say just go Rive. If you're trying to have your basic attack like be like a good attack, I would say go Rive, but Multi-Strike could be a thing where you invest in these more multipliers, and who knows? It'd probably be a whole different build. We're just trying to juice Void Cleave, so everything just to protect us and to make Void Cleave even bigger. Holy Aura, you have a couple different ways you can play this. I could take the 2 points out of Call to Arms. We don't really need it. I just left it there just because. Put it in Burning Blows. Give you a little bit more fire damage. You could take 2 points out of here. Put it into Burning Blows. Gives you 4 points. This is just been what I've been rolling with, though. I wanted to take the Fire Pen. 5 points here for more resistances and endurance. 1 point here for our only source of cleanse, plus some poison resistance. And I needed all 4 points in True Strike for that critical strike chance. Yeah, works out. Abyssal Echoes. So we've been leaning into the Void Knight tree for sure. This is the node you want the most. Erasing Strike, damage to slowed. You use Abyssal Echoes. You apply 2 stacks of slow. And then this activates. For 4 seconds, you're going to do 80% more damage to slowed enemies. 80% more. See what we're doing there? More multipliers stacked with our Multi-Strike, stacked with what we can pull out of the Void Cleave tree. It's going to go boom. So I took points here in Corrupting Harness and Deep Expanse to make it larger and chain out even further. And then, because it's a traversal skill, fly through a big pack of enemies. They're all dead. So yeah, I like that a lot. I get questions about Embrace the Darkness a lot. I think it's bugged because it says directly using Abyssal Echo. Well, in this case, we are using it, but in my other builds where I use Void Cleave to proc Abyssal Echoes, in this case, it wouldn't be very effective. But if you use Void Cleave to proc Abyssal Echoes with Embrace the Darkness, technically it shouldn't work, but in this case, it does. It does on like my Void Cleave Erasing Strike build. In this case, it doesn't matter. Directly using Abyssal Echoes grants you Nether Coating. Nether Coating gives you damage versus blinded with buff and attack speed bonus. There you go. 1 point in Vorpal Reverberation, 1 point in Turbulence, and this blinds enemies. This could be a source of critical strike avoidance if we needed it because of the blind rework, but yeah. That is the setup for Abyssal Echoes. Really gives a lot of value. So here's what it would look like if I don't use Abyssal Echoes. right? I mean, they have a lot of stacks of bleed on them. It's a lot of damage, chat. It's a lot of damage. All right, let's go into the passive tree. So I've messed around with this. I'm going to say it now. I think this build would be better on a Forge Guard. Definitely would be better on a Forge Guard. Here's the thing. I don't have a Forge Guard. Paladin's turning into the new Forge Guard. Any build I play on Paladin, except for Bleed Hammers, which any build on Paladin except for Bleed Hammers, you could probably even do Bleed Hammers on Forge Guard, and it might be just as good. But yeah. Any build I play on Paladin, I feel like, dude, it'd be better on Forge Guard or Void Knight now. It used to be you play any build on Forge Guard, and it's like, dude, this would be better on Paladin or Void Knight. Paladin's turning into a new thing. Since I created this build on Paladin back in Cycle 1.0, I wanted to take it here. But yeah, I think, I'm just going to say it now, it would probably be better on either Forge Guard or Void Knight. Dims the brakes. But nonetheless, 8 points in Juggernaut gives us more strength, more fire resistance, more void resistance. 5 points in Fearless for vitality, 5 points in Armor Clad, 5 points in Valiant Charge, 2 points in Time and Faith, and Blade Master. If you don't need this, take these 2 points out of here, put them into Fearless. But Blade Master is going to give us a 30% attack speed with the sword. Come over here to the Forge Guard, took 5 points in Weapons Master. You get increased melee attack speed, and that's what we were looking for. Paladin, I'm going to come back to here in a moment, chat. So, coming back to Paladin, 8 points in Conviction, 10 points in Valor, 1 point in Phoenix Strike, 8 points in Raye Strength for even more strength, and a little bit more fire damage on recent melee hit, 6 points in a Holy Icon, 8 points in Penance for 120% melee bleed chance, and 12 points in Reverence of Duality. This is the only reason why I would even come down here. 24% more damage, 24% more health, 24% more mana, 24% more healing effectiveness. I'm saying more, they're increased. They're increased bonuses. And I got a lot to say here too, chat. And we come over here to the Void Knight, 10 points in Abyssal Endurance, 6 points of World Eater for that Void damage leeches health, and melee damage leeches health, 1 point in Void Corruption for more, for increased critical strike multiplier per point here in the Void Knight tree, and 8 points in Doom Knight for strength and health. All right. Here's how you could also run it. Here's how you could also run it. We're just going to switch out some points. You can give up Reverence of Duality. And you can give up Penance. All right? You might have enough bleed chance. That's going to give us 20 points. I say put 10 points here. You get 10 strength, right? I say put 5 points here. You get some flat damage. We don't need a lot more flat. This is just to get to this. 5 points here. Now all of our strength is converted to critical strike multiplier. Now you have 5 points. You can put it down here and get bleed chance, which we were doing in the other tree. Or you can put it up here and get increased stun chance and health. I'm going to opt for health. So we lost about 400 health. Well, little under. We lost like 350 health because we took it out of Reverence of Duality. It's definitely more consistent damage. It's not a whole lot more. I'm getting like some weird frame drops. Hold up. But it's definitely more damage if you need it. Right? It's just this side of the Paladin tree doesn't feel as strong anymore. I personally like having the bleed chance and Reverence of Duality just for that extra survivability, but this is why I'm saying I feel like this build would be better on a Forge Guard, because then you get access to this side of the tree. You get access to like Duelist, access to, like, I don't know, this 4 points. All of a sudden you're getting fire pin and physical pin. You're getting you get access to might, even more strength and health. You get access to, I mean, obviously you get more if you have a shield, but you can still get less damage taken. You can get less damage over time taken. You could take points in Master of Arms, strength with a two-handed weapon, +2 per point. Oh my gosh, it makes this go off. It makes this go off. You like shared fire damage. Like, it's way more interesting now after the rework. That's why I think Forge Guard would be better. Or Void Knight, because then you can get Echo Chance. And you can get something like Eternal Form, which would make my current Titan Heart even better. So, yeah. I'm going to go ahead, reset it back to the way I was. This is a Paladin. I want to actually use some points on the other side of the Paladin tree. So, this is what I settled on. And yeah, I hope it works out for you guys. Anyway, guys, that is the entire build. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Consider liking the video, dropping a subscribe, and I had a lot of fun with this build. Yeah. Anyway, you guys take care. Cheers. Attempt number 2. Oh my God! That is broken! That is freaking broken!
Turned her back on us. Darkness reigns. We are worthless. The gods tore our world apart. They deserve their fate. The void comes. Darkness reigns. We got worthless. The void comes. We treated the world no better. Death is our legacy.
Need you to come over here, Aberroth.
The void comes. Weak and worthless. The world called to Abyss. This is his answer. The void hungers. You fight for nothing. The void comes.
Well, didn't work that time.
You fight for nothing. Worthless.
There we go. There we go. Second attempt. BRB noises? Oh, okay.